All right, so if you guys are living under a rock for some reason and you don't know about Avowed, let's do a little bit of a catch up before we talk about it. If you guys are unaware, there's been so much backlash happening with Avowed. Avowed is a video game that's made by Obsidian Entertainment, which is also a company that is owned by Xbox. And Avowed is the prime example of what happens when you talk too fucking much, when you don't know when to shut up. That's what Avowed is. Now, Avowed was about to come out with their game relatively soon. I think they were a couple months away from release. And then a certain art director by the name of Matt Henson decides that he is going to have a melty melt about Elon Musk. And he decides to not only have a melty melt, but then all his tweets become exposed where he's racist against white people, blah, 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 all this stuff. You know what I mean? It's crazy stuff. Imagine tripping at the finish line when you're about to release a AAA game, because that's literally what happened with Avowed. They tripped at the finish line because of one guy. You got to imagine that there is people out there in Obsidian Entertainment that are probably swinging in the air right now and thinking to themselves, you dumb motherfucker, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Well, apparently there are people that are coming out and speaking out against this and are having issues with what he said. Some of them were former Obsidian co-owners, which we spoke about in the last stream. And in this particular scenario, we have Earthworm Jim creators Doug Tennapal, who is blasting woke video games in general and saying the best gamers I knew were conservative. Now, a lot of this came from the Avowed stuff because of what's been going on with it. But we also have this developer as well. The Great Rebellion developer blasts Avowed art director as unstable and childish. So you have developers coming out left and right trying to talk down about what's happening with Avowed. But keep in mind, there are developers that obviously support it too. You got this, for example. God of War director David Gaff defends Avowed art director Matt Henson, because of course he does, right? Of course this fucking loser does. So let's talk about the Great Rebellion one really quick. Let's use that as a reference. Listen, everybody's trying to correct me on Ten Nepal. Listen, I'm not going to be able to say it. I'm just not going to be able to say it. It is what it is. It is what it is. I suck. Okay? I suck at pronouncing. So again, developer blasts Avowed art director as unstable and childish. Now, this is the guy who wears like a scarf or something around his neck. I really don't know what it is. But needless to say, he probably is childish. So Roland Moritz, the founder of Kvilt Games and the main developer for the Great Rebellion, blasted Obsidian Entertainment, Avowed, and its art director, Matt Henson. Moritz spoke exclusively with Fandom Pulse, who asked him for his reaction to Avowed, including pronouns in the game, blocking gamers on X who shared that they want the pronouns removed, and art director Matt Henson revealing he wanted to make Elon Musk mad with the game. Let's keep scrolling down really quick. I want to scroll down to what his statement was. Hold on. Where is it at? Right, here we go. So Moritz reacted to all of this, telling Fandom Pulse the following. The whole thing is another revealing look into how deep the gaming industry has been subverted by radical leftist ideologues and, quite frankly, extremely entitled people who got used to getting their way every single time over the last years. I agree with this. Because you know what it is? This particular what do you call it? This particular scenario has been happening for a while, where these people absolutely are used to getting their way for the longest time. They have been for the longest time. 2020 is really what started it all. The lockdowns, and they felt really powerful. I think we've spoken about this before, where they have felt extremely powerful over the lockdowns, and they feel like they can have control over people, because when the lockdowns happened, cancel culture really took off as well. So not only were people locked away, unable to do work or anything like that, locked in their houses, and they were told that they were non-important, but they also had all the power in the world to cancel people. So these people were drunk off power, and they were in their houses just going nuts with it. They were Twitter warriors. Every single one of them were Twitter warriors. It was nuts. So he's right. He's 100% right. This industry has been taken over by people. They're so focused on trying to get their way that it's impossible for them to think otherwise. They don't live in a world where them getting their way is not an option. They need to always get their way. That's it. That's just what it is. They always have to get their way. I mean, we're looking at that right now with 8-Bit Eric and Alyssa Mercante. We're literally watching that go down right now. They're like spoiled children. The fact that Obsidian's art director is lashing out in the unhinged way that he did is a sign of a person who is not the least willing to engage with any criticism or self-reflection and is, in short, spoiled. He continued that these things have been going on for years behind the scenes, and getting a backlash and being dragged to light is still a new experience to these ideologues. So that particular part right here, being dragged to light, I feel like this is the most important thing about what he said so far, because they do like working in the shadows. They've admitted this, right? Sweet Baby Inc. has admitted they prefer to work in the shadows. They're not the only ones. There's a bunch of companies in the gaming industry that absolutely prefer to work in the shadows. They don't want to be known. They don't want the backlash that comes with this kind of ideology. They don't want it. So they rather stay hidden. But unfortunately for them, the light's on you now. You're not hidden anymore. You're very easily seen now at this point. You're like the cockroaches trying to run into the corner because the light got shined on you. We see you. We see all of you. That's not our fault. That's your fault. Because you guys didn't know when to quit. That's the problem. You kept winning, or at least in your mind, you kept winning, and you kept pushing and going further and further. And you know where they fucked up? Here's where they fucked up, right? All this ideology has been happening for years, like this guy said. But this is where they fucked up. They fucked up when they went after children. That's where they fucked up. That's when it became too far for a lot of people. There are people out there that will say, you know what, live and let live. I don't want to be bothered. Just don't bother me. I won't bother you. They're fine with that, right? Like, you got an adult that's super gay, wants to be insane, whatever, do whatever he wants to do, fine. As long as you're not hurting anybody, do what you got to do. That's how a lot of people think. But the big difference now is that they came for your kids. And that's where people woke up and they said, whoa, wait a minute. I thought you just wanted gay marriage. I thought you just wanted equal rights. You have all that now. How is that? How is any of that tied to wanting to trans a kid? How is any of that tied to wanting to put that ideology or to talk about sex with children? Where exactly did that get tied into this? And then once you started questioning, they thought they had enough power to be like, oh, well, you're just bigoted. Like, no, I just kind of have questions. Oh, you're not allowed to question. Says who? You're out here trying to push sexual ideologies to children. And we're not even talking about teenagers. We're talking about kids. Like, fucking kids, my guy. Like, I feel like I should be able to ask the question. What exactly are we doing here? But again, if you ask questions, you're bigoted, apparently. You know what I mean? It's like the fucking like, at what point do we go from gay marriage and equal rights to drag queens dancing in front of children and having them put stripper dollars in their fucking fishnet? Like, when did we get here? When did that happen? Like, when is that? Since when is that what you're fighting for? That's when it gets a little bit odd. That's when I start asking questions, you know? So anyway, so that's my point. They pushed it way too far. And this is what happens when you're heavy-handed. When you're heavy-handed, your point doesn't come across all the time. Not everybody can handle heavy-handed. And now you're in a country where everybody vote red because they wanted to fuck you over. Basically. So let's keep going. He then observed they have to contend with the simple fact that games do well to appeal to their audience, are naturally successful. Games that spite their audience are unnaturally unsuccessful. Some of the woke flops we saw could have been good games without meddling. True. That's 100% true. There was a lot of games out there that could have been good games if it wasn't for people trying to fuck with it and utilize it for a message. This is a factor in game design from the ground up, as we see in Obsidian's art director baking his controversial opinions into the game at a fundamental level, which are at odds with the culture. More it's added, it's unstable, it's childish. We make games that are enjoyable because of our culture, not out of disdain for it. That's true. And that's why I said earlier that he's making this game with hatred. Like, he actually is making this game with hatred. That's the ironic thing about it.